to the international, but that is the reason why the economy has been much better. When it comes to aviation, I'd like to share this figure with you because it's very relevant to say that it is no problem to travel if all of us we are following the protocols. And as per IATA figures, 1.2 billion passengers has traveled in 2020, and only 44 cases were confirmed. That means that 1 out of 27 million people which is traveling are the ones that were hit or affected by the COVID. So that means that, of course, it's quite safe to travel. It is safe when we have all the protocols in place, and it's very important to understand when it comes to build back the travelers' confidence. Okay, so now I go to my fellow partners, to the fellow speakers. I'm going to present all of them, actually, and then I'm going to give the floor by region, because they are all of them to talk about a different region to illuminate us how they are, or how is the perception that they have of the recovery. So we have Debbie Flynn. She's the managing partner of the Brighter Group. She founded the travel communication agency in 1995 after 10 years at BA. I worked at BA as well, so let's chat about that later. Becoming part of the New York-based global agency Finn Partners in January 2018. Debbie is now the global travel practice leader with 50-strong team across Europe, Asia, North America, and set up the global travel recovery network with Finn experts from tech, health, public affairs, and sustainability. We will talk to you later. Let me go through the different panelists, so I present all of them. We have Teresa, International Marketing and Tourism Director at Via Outlet. She's a professional with broad experience in several sectors, from tourism, from tour operators to luxury hotel chains, and she's definitely an expert in retail of all your past experience, mostly all related to sales, marketing, and hospitality across Americas, Asia, and Europe. Then let's move to Daniela Wagner, and as I said before, she's wearing different hats. She's very well known in the industry. She's representing here today PARA, and is representing as well Jacob Media Group. She heads up the international team at Jacobs Media, the group international marketing services brand, providing strategic services, market intelligence, dedicated global events, networking, and partnership building with companies wishing to target the UK travel trade for the UK's business seeking to internationalize. So very interesting panelists so far. And last but not least, our men. So we are very happy to have you with us, Carlos, and you know that I have a lot of appreciation for you. CEO and founder of the World Impact Alliance. I would say among many other things, because you are a very prolific person, and not to mention polyglot. He speaks like 7 or 8 languages. Carlos is founder and CEO of the Global Impact Alliance and Enquai as well, West China Relations Consultancy, and China Influencers Project. He's really an expert and a global shaper of different activities to bring and to connect with the influencers worldwide, and belongs to different organizations and universities. So I will let you to speak about yourself later in all the things you are going to be talking today. So I wanted to just thank you, and I want to invite Debbie to share with us a presentation to talk about the region, which is Americas. Thank you.
Thank you, Maribel. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Debbie Flynn, and I'm the Global Travel Practice Manager for Finn Partners. Today, I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about some of the general trends that we've seen from all of our offices across Asia, Europe, and North America in terms of what the new pandemic traveler is going to be like. So first of all, we're going to look at why they travel, then we're going to look at how they travel. So if we look first of all at some of the trends, and we look at wellness to begin with, 2020 has been detrimental for our collective mental health. The equivalent of 19 million adults in the UK have reported high levels of anxiety and stress over lockdown. And 2021 is going to be an opportunity to release this pent-up anxiety of isolation with wellness holidays and stress management retreats. It's a new kind of wellness following this year of high stress and work-related burnout, lockdowns, consumers are looking for trips that will provide them with a boost both mentally and physically. The winter months, I think, are going to see a boom in people taking long stay, healthy hibernation holidays, which will work well for the long haul market. Then, of course, there's the bucket list. Lots of people during lockdown have reevaluated what bucket list trips that they meant to go on and didn't, and where is still in their dreams. So it's still very much up there, which plays into many long-haul destinations. Returning to nature is a really big trend globally. In social distancing, nature tourism is going to rocket in popularity. Travellers will crave wide open spaces and inspiring views after being homebound. And they want to escape to wilderness, feeling that they'll be safer than visiting crowded cities. The restorative benefits of being in nature also make it the ideal choice for a trip to recuperate, dose up on vitamin C, and process the chaos of COVID-19. We think that travellers aged 25 to 34 are typically seeking out these new, more remote destinations. And then we move on to familiarity. An interesting trend that's emerging is in fact the idea of familiarity, and travellers are much more inclined to return to known and trusted destinations in the near future when so much is uncertain than to try out new spots. And then of course we've got to look at the FOGO and FOMO. Fear of missing out was what we lived with before COVID, and then we went into FOGO, fear of going out. And I think there will be some people that will still feel that they need to either stay at home and not venture long haul for quite some time, or they will want to extend into wanting to stay in their own bubbles. But on the other hand, there is YOLO, and this is another global trend that we've seen. So although there's a nervousness about travelling, lots of people, and this is regardless of age, there are many stats that over 50s feel this, YOLO is you only live once. And these are the people that really are going to take advantage of all this pent-up demand for travel and get out there as soon as they can. Earlier on today, Talib talked about the digital nomad, and workation is absolutely a big trend. The majority of non-essential workers are continuing to work from home all over the world, and it's safe to say that the stereotypical 9-to-5 office job is well and truly on a hiatus. And this has shown that many countries have embraced the trend of being able to host digital nomads. Destinations that have really done a really good job of it are Portugal, Croatia, Barbados, and Antigua's launching their own scheme next week. As for business travel, long-haul travel plans are really on hold indefinitely at the moment as companies assess the balance between the need and the safety. And there's a big concern, of course, around duty of care. In particular, national businesses in China, Australia, New Zealand and USA are less likely to have long-haul plans until much later in 2021. On a more positive note, the wedding and honeymoon market. In the UK recently, the director of QONI talked about the concept of pimp my honeymoon, and that's as people they've had an extra year to save up and they really want to go all out for their weddings and honeymoons. Many weddings have been cancelled in countries, and therefore they have this money to be able to go out and take advantage of destinations weddings, which will really play well for the long haul market. And this is also going to play into the revenge spending that we've seen in the luxury travel market. So how are these people going to travel? Well, we've seen lots of people talking today about the health and safety protocols. Just as September the 11th changed the way travellers entered and interacted in airports, this pandemic is going to change how we travel. 70% of baby boomers, this is one of your stats, Maribel from WTTC, say they wish to see health screenings at airports compared to less than half of millennials. So health and safety is going to be paramount in this new era. And then moving on to sustainability. Travellers will certainly travel less, but better and with a purpose. And this will play well into the long-haul market. It's a world where people are going to explore with intention, experience its intensity and protect its integrity. We've already seen a whole rebirth from that perspective in terms of searches for more responsible travel. Local communities are going to be crucial partners. Then if we move on to multi-gen, the early signs are emerging that the multi-generational travel and big family holidays are going to be in huge demand as people look to reconnect following the coronavirus lockdown. We're going to see lots of reunion holidays, and again, this is where people are going to connect, maybe in a neutral destination in the middle of the world when they are really allowed to travel. And when we look at multi-generation travel, we mustn't forget Generation Z because they tend to sway decisions, so it's also really important to market to the whole family. And we look at the luxury end of the market. Those with deep pockets, the top end of the luxury travel is booming in terms of they haven't lost all their money and they are looking to where they're going to go next. That will count very well for the long-haul market. We talked about domestic market, and I think the balance of people exploring the domestic market is going to play well into pent-up travel demand for long-haul destinations. Self-drive is another trend that we're seeing globally. In the post-COVID world, travelers are much more aware of the need to travel to destinations that make it easy to maintain social distancing practices. So again, I think long-haul destinations where they've got great self-drive itineraries will prove very popular. And then, of course, there's self-catering and exclusive use, we believe, is going to be really big. People are actually looking to have their own space that's trusted from a health and safety perspective. And we're also going to be looking at financial insurance and trusted brands in terms of looking for COVID insurance and travel agents. So there's tech first, and then there's testing, which again we've talked about a lot. So just if we look at the booking data here, the current booking data talks that lots of people have yet, and it's understandable given the uncertainty of the market, actually booked their long-haul holidays. But with lots of credit notes in circulation because of the whole refunds issue, we believe there will be that pent-up demand. So let's just take a little look at America. So from our US office, we've got many long-haul destinations, particularly the Caribbean, Mexico, and Dubai, open to US travelers, but there's still concern from the Americans about the long-haul flights and what awaits them on their arrival. Many are a bit worried about travelling again in terms of what the CDC restrictions say, and there's a lot of confusion out there against the many different country travel requirements. And of course, there's lots of different planning methods that need to be maintained. Other insights, the Americans have got a long way to go to understand the value of the travel advisor, or travel agent as we call them in the UK, to navigate the ins and outs of the more confusing travel market. And we believe there's a lot more education needed in the travel trade. Travel insurance has never been more important, and again, a good advisor that's been trained to advise on travel insurance through and through is going to be a very important part in actually increasing the confidence for the American traveller. And finally, what we're finding from the research that our American office have done is that people are going to choose to return to their favourite destinations, but at the same time, let's go back there, sorry I missed a slide, but at the same time they're going to look for new destinations, maybe places that they feel originally suffered from over-tourism and now won't. They're going to be looking for low-key and density travel. It's very attractive, particularly to the Gen Z American and the dual income with no kids. And finally, they're going to be looking for travel deals. There's been a lot of publicity about the deals that are around in the marketplace, and they're going to be looking for value for money. So I think to end on, it's time really to rip up the rule book and start your narrative from scratch. It's got to be relevant and nuanced to land well with whoever your target audience is. Safety and security must be forefront in all messages so that you can actually align anybody's fears. Inspiration travel content is king, and you need to look at elevating new product development to actually market to these new trends of what the consumers are desiring, and obviously make sure your corporate strategy aligns. My last slide is just a quote from James Woolman, who is the author of Time and How to Spend It, and actually the founder of the World Experiential Organization. And his view is that long-haul travelers coming back after coronavirus have to think about themselves as being early innovators and early adopters, and that they're moving from materialism to experientialism. So it's very important that we look at the entire experience in a long-haul destination that these customers are looking for.
Thank you. Very much, Debbie, for sharing the data and the book and the writer. So thank you very much. Let's go now to Teresa. She's going to let us know what is happening in Europe and what is your perspective from the European point of view in terms of long haul and what needs to be done to recover those travelers. Teresa.
Okay, thank you very much, Maribel. To be here today. As you've already introduced, I work for Via Outlets, and over the past 10 months, I've been lucky enough to be coordinating the tourism teams over our 11 different centers, 9 different countries across Europe. So what this has given me, it's an opportunity to see what each different country in this continent is doing. Although we are one continent, it's all spread around that we are not aligned. So this has been a great learning, and I hope it's going to be a great strength to face welcoming the long-haul traveler. First of all, I'd like to put a bit of perspective. When Europe hit the wave, the first wave of the pandemic, we thought we were the strongest. Europe welcomes most travelers in the world. Among the top 5 most visited countries, we have 3 in Europe: France, Italy, and Spain. And therefore, we knew everything. We know everything about tourism. Yet what happens is that we realize how vulnerable we were. So when the first wave hit, nobody in Europe wanted to see what was happening in Asia. And that was the first learning for this pandemic, that unless we have perspective, we will never be able to overcome the challenge. Secondly, when we realized how vulnerable we were, and I think this happened on personal levels, as well as businesses, as well as institutional, we all realized that we had no data in the industry. Some entities such as the WTTC did an amazing work starting to pull together all the data on the tourism. However, there was no data on how good and how heavy our industry was. This vulnerability, I'm hoping it's going to give us a strength. Yet, until we reach this point, we would have never known how weak we can become. Secondly, we realized that we were not coordinated at all. So yes, we all are within the European Union, yet everybody had a better idea than the one before. So as I said before, without perspective, we will never be able to overcome this. And lastly, without data or coordination, we realize we have no strength. And that's where our opportunity lies, in the strength that we have when we realize how vulnerable we are without one another. So I'd like to focus mainly on the 3 areas of opportunity that we have to become stronger and to overcome this situation stronger. Firstly, for me, it's listening to what others are doing. We have Asia ahead of us, and that gives us an amazing opportunity to see what they are doing well and to improve what can be improved. This is a great standing point. This is not something we've gained by ourselves, but circumstances put us in this second position. So it's a great position to learn and improve. And how can we improve our destination? Well, yes, we are strong, but we need to be stronger. And I believe the uniqueness that Europe delivers to the world is something we should focus on. And when I say uniqueness, I mean the exclusivity, the authenticity of our destination. We have plenty of destinations to visit: culture, shopping, history, art, and it's all spread all over the continent. So we have the opportunity to move from mass tourism, which nobody wants to go back to a little bit more spread all over the continent. Secondly, this trend that we call the slow tourism. I think Debbie has said before me that there is a new trend. I think we all want to travel a bit more conscious, and we want to take this opportunity to travel maybe longer but better. So no more speed dating, speed traveling, but a bit more conscious traveling, despite whether it's business or leisure. I think we all want to take on this opportunity and travel slightly better on this slow tourism movement. And that will give us the opportunity to overcome the over-tourism problem we've been facing in the past years, but also emerge stronger. And thirdly, there is no future without collaboration. So unless we are able to become together and move from the win-win, which was the previous better scenario, to a if you win, I win, there will not be a better future. So yes, there is a public-private collaboration. It has improved amazingly over the last months. We've gone from not talking to one another to unless we talk, we will never overcome this. And I've seen this in all our different destinations throughout the 9 different countries we manage. And this is something fantastic to hold on to build on a better future. So just to wrap up, how do I think we can become this situation in Europe to attract better our long-haul tourists? Well, by strengthening our uniqueness, making it stronger, take on the opportunity on the slow tourism, and thirdly, the collaboration. I think if we hold on to these 3 key points, we will not only become stronger, but we will have a purpose, which is building a brighter and more sustainable future. So with the minute and a half I have left, I would like to take this opportunity that we all have a think, close our eyes, have a think, what is the one thing I can do to build a better future for Europe? And I already know mine, which is I'll travel less, but more conscious. And I challenge you all to have just one little statement and stick to it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Teresa. Thank you to put some emotion and passion as well in your comments and speech, and take it into consideration that Europe is the #1 destination worldwide. When you put it as a region and as a whole, it's very important to have this, think about it properly. So Daniela, that's now your time, and you have again your vision when it comes to what is happening within your organization, PATA, in Asia. You let us know about that, but please as well, from the point of view of communication, help us understanding what destinations should be doing to bring better travel, long-haul traveler and consumer. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Maribel. And first of all, I'd like to really start by saying I really congratulate the Tourism Innovation Summit organizers for having put this event together. I think it's really important. This is my first business trip since January, since I was here for Fitur in Madrid. And, you know, the biggest issue that we face going forwards is actually consumer confidence. How do we rebuild the consumer confidence so that people actually feel that, I mean, we know that they want to travel, but how do we make them feel that they really can travel with confidence? And I think actually coming here to Seville from England with my colleagues, some of my colleagues, has been really good for me because it's shown me that it's completely possible to travel safely. And, you know, if you look back a couple of years, I want to actually address both of the things that you were talking about, Maribel. First of all, the position from Asia, but then also the position about the communication. So first of all, I work for PATA, Pacific Asia Travel Association, which is the major trade association which works very close with the WTTC and other organizations that represents the Asia-Pacific region and promotes travel to, from, and within Asia. It's been around for almost 70 years, and it brings together public and private sector members who are countries or travel agents and suppliers to the travel industry. And if you look back 2 years, you know, Asia was where all of our focus was from the rest of the world. It was the destination, not just China, but also lots of countries throughout Asia, the Philippines, Thailand, who were producing enormous numbers of travelers who were coming to explore the rest of the world. But if you look at what was happening then, over a decade, those numbers have been growing in double-digit growth for a long time. But the trends were already changing. You found that people were moving from group travel to FIT travel. They were becoming more adventurous. They were moving away from the capital cities only, doing the pajama tour of Europe in 7 days, to actually looking at secondary destinations, visiting the countryside. There was also this feeling that people wanted to escape from cities, connect with the countryside, connect with nature, try to experience something which was really authentic. So all of those were already underlying trends 2 years ago. And I think that's really important when we look at what's going to happen going forward. Because what's the situation now? There is absolutely no travel from Asia to Europe, and that's partly because Asia itself has closed down. You can't even travel from one Asian destination to another. And Also, the perception of Europe in Asia is actually quite negative at the moment. You know, Asia is slowly coming out of this pandemic. China has done a particularly good job. Thailand's done a good job. Quite a few countries have done a good job containing the virus and are slowly building air bubbles with their surrounding neighbors to start travel again. But the perception of Europe in Asia is that we haven't done such a good job. And that's something that's going to be very important in the future, because so far European countries have fought to attract Asian visitors based on what they're able to offer as a destination. So going forward, what they're going to have to think about is, first of all, what are the travel possibilities between Asia and Europe? What are the safety protocols that have been implemented in each individual country? So actually, it's not the demand to go and see a country that's going to determine where people go to. It's actually whether it's safe to go, whether things are clean, what are the travel restrictions. And a really big problem is going to be quarantine. Asians book their travel at the last minute. They can't really plan it in any other way for cultural reasons and work reasons. And therefore, they're going to think Asian vacations are also very short, so they're going to think long and hard about where do they go. It's impossible for them to go to a country like the UK at the moment, which imposes 2 weeks quarantine, because then, well, they would arrive, be in quarantine, and then go back and not have had a holiday. So it's actually, if we look at how we're going to attract people back, it's going to be around very clear communication. And at the moment, as Debbie and Teresa both said, it's extremely confusing. Where can you go? How can you travel? So countries, especially NTOs, are going to have to look at a completely different type of investment in accurate information, communicating what the protocols are, explaining that it's safe to go and visit a destination, that the places you're going are going to be clean, and then after that, looking at actually recreating the demand for what that destination has to offer, because undoubtedly Europe has a huge amount to offer, and people won't forget that. But their immediate concern is going to be around health and safety, cleanliness and accessibility. So, you know, I think the opportunity now is that we should look at what the underlying trends were up to 2 years ago, this move away from fast-paced city tourism to something more experiential, more sustainable, more connected to nature, more involved also with local life in the destination. And if countries look at those underlying trends and say, how can we move forward to a different type of tourism? This is actually the time to say, tourism definitely will restart. People want to travel and they will come back. And I think it will take 1 or 2 years for us to get over where we are now. But once we get there, we will be able, we have an opportunity that we may never have had to actually fast track some of those trends, look at how we develop products in a more authentic manner. And NTOs should stop looking, and they already were stopping this before, just at the numbers of visitors arriving, but at the quality of the visitors arriving and at what kind of new products they can think of which will enable us to fast track that path towards a more sustainable future. So that's it on the one hand. And just to address your other question, Maribel, is about communication in 30 seconds. So with my other hat on, I work for Jacobs Media Group, which is the largest media group in Europe, actually. And one of the things that we've been working very hard on is actually helping travel agents through this difficult time to communicate, to understand what's happening in destination, so that they can talk to their clients and give them the confidence to start traveling again. And with 1 second to go, I thank you for your attention, thank you for listening, and thank you for being here.
Thank you, Daniela. I'm sure we can speak a little bit more later. Let's speak a little bit more about that later. I think we will have some minutes now. Let me go to Carlos Sentís. Carlos, China. First, every country, every continent is bringing some Chinese back, of course, but with the pandemic, and I know you were very active on that sense, with the pandemic, everything is stopped. And now we are seeing what is happening in China. Things are sort of normal. Can you share what they have been doing there that we could be looking at? And second, do you think the Chinese will be willing to travel abroad again, and how to tackle, how to approach them to be able to be competitive when it comes to bring back the Chinese market?
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Maribel, for the question, for the introduction. Quite honestly, probably the biggest highlight of my career is that I got to be your friend. And also knowing that there's still a lot of work to do with women empowerment. But looking at this panel, I would like to ask you, how can I empower myself to be half successful as you are? So thank you for the question. I have been working with the Chinese market for quite a long time. And also I am lucky enough to be married to a wonderful Chinese woman that teaches me a lot about the culture too. And we are seeing a couple of trends that are very relevant. And to answer your question, it is almost normal already in China. It's the first major economy on recovering from the pandemic. And the biggest, I think that the most clear way to see this is that in the Golden Week, there were 632 million travelers from China moving around within the country. In 2019, China was already the world's largest outbound tourism market. They had 130 million tourists, and also it was the world's biggest spender with more than $250 billion spent in their travel abroad. And because they are the first in recovering from the virus, and secondly, because of the trend and because of the way the economy is still growing, it's pretty safe to say that it is going to be a very important market to focus on in the next years. Now, in order to attract Chinese travelers, there's some things to keep in mind. The first one being that the diplomatic relations between other countries and China are really important. And what the war on China that Trump started did was creating a very, very tense environment internationally. And that has worsened not only the relations between the US and China, but also, for example, Australia or New Zealand that were attracting a lot of Chinese travelers. So it is impossible to deal with the Chinese market without thinking about the political side. But at the same time, it is a great opportunity for many other destinations like Europe, for example, because if we have good diplomatic relations with China, a good relation, that is a good starting point. And secondly, because we are going to see how Chinese are eager to continue traveling, and because they have already traveled to some destinations. For example, they have been to the US a lot, and they are looking for new experiences. Also, because of the situation in Asia and the way that Chinese travelers respond to, for example, celebrity marketing, influencer marketing, and other trends, we see how they have already been traveling a lot to Japan and to Thailand and other places, because that was we would say, the first destinations that did a great job in communication, and because they are also very, very sensitive to word of mouth marketing. So all the travelers were going to those destinations, they loved it, they recommended it to their friends, but that is kind of like the first wave of the Chinese traveler, and that's already over, and now they are way more sophisticated. So we are in a situation where it's going to be vital to do a lot of communication, a lot of branding. A lot of times we just think that they know us, or they have to know us, or that the work that we have done in other markets should work, but that's not exactly the case, because China is like a different ecosystem, especially because the language barrier is pretty big. And a lot of times people think that Chinese are like completely different, that they're like aliens or something. They're people, you know, and they like more or less the same things that we like, but there's a big language barrier. It's more than a cultural barrier, it's a language barrier. So if you are a destination, it is important to adapt at least to the language, or make sure that the experience is smooth, at least, let's say. But now, when you are okay with the product and you have already a strategy in place that makes sense for those travelers, now the question is, do they know about you? And do they have any reason at all to go to your destination? And I think that that's where a lot of times we are just, I would say, very naive with the Chinese market. We think, okay, now they have money, so I just tell them to come and they will come. Or let's just keep the whole branding issue, because who cares about that? Let's talk to a travel agent and see if they bring millions of tourists. And that's just not working. So you need to work on communication. And China is very sophisticated in this aspect. I don't know how familiar you are with the live streaming revolution that is going on right now. But there's just, in the end of this year, there's going to be 400 million Chinese live streamers. And only to know how big that trend is, for example, one influencer that sells lipsticks, and he's a guy, he sells $300,000 worth of product in 1 hour. And it's not only products that they're selling, destinations, anything is being sold through live streaming. In fact, if you see, for example, Taobao or JD.com, which are like the B2C platforms of Alibaba or the biggest e-commerce platforms in China, you see that every product has a live streamer 24/7 selling you with limited time offers and things like that. And that's absolutely vital because that's what it's converting the most and that's what's working the most. I've been saying that celebrities and influencers and media and TV shows and trying to attract reality celebrity shows to your destination is the best way to promote in China forever. And it's been difficult to convince people to do that, even though the results are incredible. But now what's happening is that they have gone to the next step. So you see that if you're not working with celebrities, influencers, and you're not doing live streaming, you're going to have a lot of difficulties to sell because most sales are going to be done in that way. So what I would recommend to any destination is to try to understand that you are absolutely unknown for most of Chinese people. And if you have something good for them as a destination, you have to make sure that you use all the potential communication channels, and you really have to make an effort, and you have to work in the long term, because if they know you and if they are interested in traveling, and if you are able to gain their trust, then they're going to come back. If you're just expecting them to appear because you decided in one meeting, that's not going to happen. And so that's, I would say, the most important thing for all of us is try to at least understand them with a little bit of empathy. We're all humans and we all care about more or less the same things. Let's try to treat them with respect. We say that, you know, racism is a big thing that we have to solve. Well, we have to audit ourselves and see if we respect or not people from other countries and other races, because with China, there's a lot of racism still. And lastly, communicate a lot and try to connect with people from China that are going to be able to bring business to your destination. Thank you.
Thank you, Carlos. Super interesting. And of course, yeah, it's all about knowing your client. It's about not the prejudice that we have with some cultures as well. We think that they are all the same. Of course, they are not. And maybe we are the ones we don't know them. It's not the other way around. So, well, we have not much time because we have to wrap up sooner as the room needs to be disinfected with COVID-19 new rules, and we are going to follow all of them. But I would like to have like a couple of minutes each, and I would like to ask a question. The question is going to be, what would you do, 3 lines, in your regions to bring confidence? Things that we haven't been doing over the last few months. And for you, Carlos, because your region is a little bit different, why? What they have been doing different? Why they are traveling and we are not? There is something there that we are missing. So 3 minutes, but you will be the last. Daniela? What in your regions, the regions that you are talking about today with the UK as well Asia, what should we be doing to bring back this confidence? Because we have been missing a lot. What we miss and what we should be doing is coordination, is testing our protocols, is communications. In every region we have been acting differently. As you see in Europe, we were very discoordinated, as Teresa mentioned. In China, of course, not, apparently. What are the things that will drive more in your regions?
Yeah, I think it's a really simple answer. It's clarity of information, as far as I'm concerned. I think that the lack of coordination has led to the perception of chaos, which actually, if you look at it on an individual level, is of course not chaos, but it's especially in Europe, we've had this from the UK perspective, for example, we've had this sort of stop-start approach from the UK government. You know, you can travel here, oh no, 2 weeks later you can't travel there. And And how is the industry needs to get itself organized first, but how can the industry organize itself if it hasn't got the support of the government and if it hasn't got an ability to organize itself long term? I mean, we're staying here in the NH Hotel, and it's a fantastic experience. The breakfast buffet is wonderfully organized, the reception is wonderfully organized, the rooms are wonderfully organized. I feel completely safe and secure and comfortable, and the level of service is amazing. And I think that's really what we need to focus on, is showcasing examples of destinations and of suppliers like hotels and airlines who are doing a really good job. You know, Delta Airlines in America, NH Hotel here, the Czech Republic, Sweden, you know, various examples. And if we could showcase those so that people really understand kind of best in class, then that would be a good way of regenerating consumer confidence.
Thank you. It's clear that as well communicating how good we are doing something is as well very positive, because if they don't know, we have been doing all work and then suddenly there is no tourist there because they don't know it, so they keep not confidence. So Debbie.
Well, I guess I'm going to say communication, obviously, that's the business I'm in. But I think it's in an ideal world, everybody would be doing the same thing. And I know that's something that you're lobbying for at WTTC. But in the meantime, I think it's really important for destinations to show that their people are willing and welcoming for tourism. I mean, there have been press coverage about some local communities being nervous about travellers coming. So I think that's really important, because I think lots of countries have done a really good job on getting their local people on board. So I think that's number one. We never thought we'd say that communicating health and safety protocols would become more important than actually the product itself, but that is really important from a commerce perspective. And I think encouraging people to share their experiences, exactly as Daniela is saying. You know, we've had the most amazing experience so far. This is the first time I've travelled since March, and it's all been super efficient. I feel very safe. So I think the more that destinations can do through social media and PR to show that people are safe in destination and they're enjoying themselves is really important.
Thank you. I mean, if it comes, it comes. It has to be like that. It's why we are trying to find out here what is it that we need to do. Teresa?
So I would say pretty much what it has already been said. I would only add two more things which I've highlighted before. First is perspective for me. Listen and see what's already being done. Carlos has just said how Chinese have been traveling already in Singapore, in Japan. They have put already the right measures. And I feel that in Europe we are still stuck in what are we doing? Well, we just need to follow because it's already been implemented there. So therefore, listen what's being done well and follow and see what others are doing away from Europe, because there is more world and Asia is leading that one. And secondly, I would say leadership. We are lacking leadership in Europe. There is a lot of trying to coordinate fine, but there needs to start the action. And this is a great example how the TIS has started this rebirth of tourism. Seville has definitely taken the risk of doing it, but it is doing it fantastically with the safety in place and the health measures needed to make sure that it can be delivered, but that it can happen. So leadership, it's definitely missing out in Europe. And third, what you've just said, communicate, that it has been done and that it's happening.
Thank you, Teresa. I think you have touched the right word, leadership. That's someone that is bringing and driving forward a vision and everybody can follow, because we were a little bit lost. Nobody was ready for it. And someone has to decide, okay, let's go on, let's move. Carlos, so you need to tell us what happened in China that they all came back to sort of normal. What should we be looking at to replicate? Let's replicate China now.
Well, I think she said it very well. It's fascinating how the whole world was looking at what was going on in China at the beginning of the year, And we were kind of like happy because Chinese are weird, and let's just have them because we don't like them, and let's see if they can have problems in the economy. If they can go slower, it's better because we can compete better. And then suddenly the problem started to get to other countries, right? To Japan and the cruise and these things, and people were like, hey, it seems that this is coming to our ways, but no one was actually thinking about this as a global problem. We were just looking at how their problem was affecting them. We were happy about that. A lot of people, I mean. And suddenly, when it became our problem, people were, even the President of the United States, were thinking, we didn't know that this was coming. It's like, yeah, the problem is that China has been incredibly transparent, and I know that a lot of people think that they are not, but the thing is, they have been sharing their best practices from the first day. They had a visit from the WHO, and they have been sharing exactly what they've been doing from the first day, even the DNA or the genetic code of the virus and so on. So the first thing was that we didn't want to listen, and I think that the lack of leadership has been absolutely catastrophic because we knew that it was coming. Every country had a toolkit and a playbook for pandemic, every single country. No one did anything on that because everybody was trying to see if the virus was not going to come, if it was like miraculously going to disappear. So what happened in the end is that when it came, and when it was impossible to just play like if it was there, it wasn't there, it was too late, right? So politically, it was not good to say that we had a problem, so they kind of like waited, and that lack of leadership has cost many, many lives. Now, that's the first thing. The second thing is, since China has obviously done things right with regards to the control of the pandemic, not with the fact that it started there, but they did a good job in using technology to control the traceability and the spread of the virus. And they did collaborations with Tencent, with Alibaba, with all the biggest technology companies there to make sure that every single citizen had an app. If it was not a new app, then was an existing app. It would be like using WhatsApp or Facebook or whatever, and have a system where it says, look, I've been doing regular tests, I am free of the virus now, and if you're going to go to any public place, you're going to have to demonstrate that you do have the test okay, right? And we had a test here in this farm. Now, but you go on a train and you don't have that. It's like, how come we don't have the mandatory testing everywhere, right? Because if you have it and you just spread it in one public place, then it's a mess already. And another thing that China is doing well, if they know about one case, they go and look for every person that potentially stumbled upon this potentially infected person in the period of time that it's in danger, right? So sometimes, for example, there was a worker in I think it was a McDonald's, and because they knew that he was infected, they were to trace all the clients of the McDonald's and their families, and if they needed, they closed an entire city. In the West, we were criticizing China because they are all, they are communist and they are evil, so they do the lockdown, and that's because they are a dictatorship, and then we did exactly the same, right? The thing is that they were way more effective in doing that lockdown. And secondly, people were way, way more respectful of the norms, and they knew the norms. So we were talking about communication. In Spain, for example, they first told us that the mask was not useful because they didn't have enough, and the government said that there was no use in the mask because they didn't have, and then when we started having more supply, they said that they were okay. So that's the first. And so we are not completely informed of what is okay or not, and then secondly, we have people doing like parties and stuff. It's like, that has happened in many countries in Europe and of course in the US with corona parties, with people trying to see who gets infected first. That's something that in China has not been cool at all. And I would say that at least what Teresa said, try to see if there's anything that you could do and see the science and see what the playbooks say, because it's something that it was studied before. We just haven't been responsible enough, I would say, and politicians just care about trying to keep their power. I'm sorry to say that, but it kind of like looks like that.
No, thank you, Carlos. It's very, it's quite clear that a lot of things, a lot of mistakes we have done, and a lot of lessons to learn, and well, some good things are doing, of course. Otherwise, there wouldn't be almost 90% of the travelers back to normal, and we are still here doing some trials, which is working. And maybe after this event this week, we can start thinking, okay, let's go for the second and the other, and why not traveling using tests not using the quarantines like something that is not needed unless there is a positive case. Having common framework, global protocols is what we are, as you all know, calling for, but this is really important to be able to go with our lives, because this crisis that has been first sanitary and then political now is economic. So we have to make sure that we can go out of it in the better shape possible. So thank you very much. We have to wrap up very quick. We have been talking about coordination, diplomatic relations, politics, and the importance of the politics of each country to make sure that we are talking to the same language to the clients, the language barrier, and of course the leadership missing that we had in Europe has been detrimental for what happened today. So thank you very much for joining today, and well, see you later. Thank you.